Jay here of Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're in the studio. We are live, so get involved in the chat and the comments. Going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news. Quite a few stories doing the rounds this morning, and I hope you're all prepared for Christmas. Christmas is almost here, innit? So yeah, whether you celebrate or not, I hope you're having a good one. Loads of people already in the chat. Good to see the usual suspects. See Santa Nuts, Real Recognises Real, Raven78. Good to see all you wonderful people. Make sure you are clicking that like button. Let's chat a little bit about Ruben Neves. This is a story that's been doing the rounds now. Do you know what? You could say this is a story that's been doing the rounds for about 5 years. I think the first time I spoke about Ruben Neves to United was when he was at Wolves. I was outside Old Trafford, and it was literally about 2020. He's been linked with us again. He's obviously at Al Hilal in the Saudi Pro League. The Mirror, few other papers as well have had this. There's loads of papers that have had this. Sort of not just years ago when he was at Wolves, but obviously more recently. And there's a feeling that Manchester United could get him in January and will be interested in getting him in January, especially now we've finally, I'll say finally like we're looking forward to it, now we've had a Bruno Fernandes injury, because that never happens, but you've got an injury to Bruno Fernandes. Kobbie Mainoo, the manager, does he rate him, does he not? There's a different story there to go into, which I can't be bothered getting into again. Casemiro, obviously, he plays a lot, he does very well, but he doesn't tend to finish games, and I think he's 34 in February, I want to say, if I got that one right. So we could do with some reinforcements. And yes, I expect Manchester United to go big in the summer, I expect us to go for someone like a Carlos Baleba or an Elliot Anderson or maybe an Adam Wharton. However, now, do we need someone in January? Is getting someone like Ruben Neves an option for us, a good option for us, because he's probably gettable, won't cost a fortune, he's only 28, so he's not done, he's not in the twilight of his career, and he could sort of fill that hole that we've got in our midfield that we need filling. Let me know what you think, right? I understand why this makes sense. I understand the idea of bringing in a player with Premier League experience who's still only 28, so he's not past it, a player that still plays for Portugal. I think he scored for Portugal, was it against Ireland not that long ago. So he's obviously got some qualities there, and United do need some quality in there. I've always been a tad underwhelmed by Ruben Neves. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to start rewriting history, because if you could be bothered, you could go and get the videos of when we were linked with him years ago of me saying, not that keen. I've not seen much of him in Saudi. I don't know whether he's, improved since he was at Wolves. I'm not trying to be silly there about it, but I don't. The question is, have United altered enough now where you go, right, well, actually, Ruben Neves, you might not have rated him, but now we're at a level where we need someone like that. Maybe. It's not one that excites me. That's my feelings on it, and I've never been that excited by Ruben Neves. I think he's all right. He's not someone that I think is good enough for Manchester United. You may disagree. By all means, everyone loves an argument. Get involved in the chat and the comments and let me know why I'm wrong. Steve M says, we're not doing short-term fixes. He's been ambiguous about that, hasn't he? I know he says we're not doing short-term fixes, but that can change. And there's been a few comments where you go, well, actually, depending on how you interpret that, United could end up getting in someone in January. We'll have to wait and see. So I don't think it's open and shut where we go, right, that's it, we're definitely not. And also, this manager says something and then other things happen. So I'm not saying it's nailed on that we're not, and I'm not saying it's nailed on that we are. Plus, you never know when it comes to availability, when it comes to these injuries, he might realise that actually we do need someone to come in because this season demands it. So I'm not sort of closing the door on anyone coming in January, and I don't think anyone should. Let me know what you think. Baffled by Semenyo signing, do we really need him? Navas Andu says, is there not a 3-year rule in Saudi that you have to pay tax if you leave before this? Don't think that never, I think that's to say Nevers happens this summer. The club comes first is the line Ruben is using now, says Akash K. I thought he was speaking about loans, says Sequenza. So there's a bit of discussion going in there as to what is going on. I mean, there's loads of the people reporting that United are looking at January transfer targets. So whether everyone's all, just got it wrong, I don't know. It can happen. But there is a feeling that Manchester United could go for someone in January, and that maybe injuries are dictating that as well. The AFCON's not really as much of a factor, is it? Because by the time you bring someone in, the players from AFCON are probably going to be back anyway. So I don't know how much that influences. In terms of Semenyo, one I'm going to get to, I think there's a deadline on January the 10th where we can get to that in a minute. But ESPN a few days ago was saying that Ruben Amorim has hinted that Manchester United could overlook their short-term needs in the January transfer window. So there is that argument, but we'll have to wait and see, because I've heard this before from managers in the past where it's like we're looking long-term and then we end up buying someone in January, especially if we've got injuries. Well, no, I finally caught a live, so what's the news going for who? We're going for Ruben Neves, according to some reports, and also Antoine Semenyo is another one we are looking at. We think that's been widely reported by everyone that we're in for Antoine Semenyo. I'm going to get to that in a sec. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Risey says, I don't care who they bring in. It's not like I'm someone who watches 17,000 players every week. Just wish them the best. And hopefully they stay out of it. Stay out of social media to avoid these stands. Official Kenny says, good morning, love you guys, keep it up. Good morning to you as well. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about the Ruben Neves links. Also, let's talk about Antoine Semenyo, because this one, or Antoine Semenyo, this one has been doing the rounds a lot. A lot of links, a lot of people saying that Manchester United are going to go up against Manchester City, potentially Liverpool as well, for Antoine Semenyo. I mean, could we get him? Could we be in for him? Potentially. We've discussed this quite a lot on this podcast or on this channel over the last few days, if not the last couple of weeks. Did quite well at Old Trafford, if you want to call that his audition. Okay, he maybe could have got a red card. I know that sounds like a contradiction, but he scored a good goal, caused us all sorts of problems, and looks like that sort of player. If he was playing for United, he'd be happy. The question is he a priority? Is that position a priority? Do we need him? Does he fit into this team? Does he come in as wing-back, as some people suggest, or does he come in as one of the two number 10s? I mean, he could play as a wing-back, he could play as a number 10. He's a player that can play pretty much, not anywhere, but in a lot of different positions, and he's a very, very good player as well. I think you can't help but be impressed when you watch him. There's lots of reports that he's being chased by a host of clubs. I think he's got a buyout clause, for give or take, for the sake of argument, I think it's 60 million plus 5 million add-ons. So maybe United act on that and go for that. I think it's January the 10th that there is a deadline on that. I think I read somewhere. So maybe United would have to go sooner rather than later if we were to get in Antoine Semenyo. I mean, I like this player. The only thing I would say about him, and I've said this on so many different podcasts now, if we are going to get him, we have to get a midfield. We have to have options for a midfielder as well. Now, I'm not saying we have to get a midfielder in January if we went for Semenyo in January, but we can't use our budget for a midfielder in the summer on Antoine Semenyo. A midfielder, if not two midfielders. I think United need two midfielders in the summer has to be the most important thing for Manchester United. We sort of revitalised our attack in the summer, didn't we? We brought in Brian Mbeumo, we brought in Mateus Cunha, and brought in Benjamin Sesko. And I'm not saying we can't add to that. Of course you can. If you want to do that, you can do that. But we neglected the midfield, and it shows. It shows this season. And I know like the Bruno injury is a bit of an outlier. It doesn't usually happen. Plus, Kobe Mainoo's injured as well. That's just unlucky because you've got two players that you could play for you, or one player that would replace the other one, both of them out. And I think the Kobe Mainoo one at least is short term. But you know that Casemiro's getting on. You know that there's a bit of a doubt onto Bruno Fernandes' long-term future. And he's done a few interviews, and a few interviews that are slightly contradictory at times as well. Did one with Rio Ferdinand, did one with, I think it was French TV. So his future isn't as certain, I think, at Manchester United as it has been in the past. There's a chance that Bruno Fernandes could leave in the summer. He's been heavily linked with a move to Saudi. I know he said he wanted to. He's played in Italy before, but there was talk about his daughter was born there, was it? And maybe he could go back there. Talk about Spain. So it's a bit ambiguous, isn't it? It depends how you interpret it, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Bruno Fernandes isn't a Manchester United player next season. If that's the case, then you're going to need to replace him. Plus, you need to bring in reinforcements anyway, because you've got Casemiro's 34 in February, I think. Plus, you've got Kobe Mainoo's future is not certain as well. I mean, even if you kept them all, I think you still need to bring in players, especially fingers crossed, we have European football. Andrew Owen says, we definitely need two midfielders and a wing-back in summer. If we can supplement that in Jan, I am all for it, as long as we don't try and fit a square peg to fit the system. I kind of agree with that. Bradley Chatty said, Andy Mitten said Semenyo is a United fan. Good stuff. I mean, you know, I don't know if that's going to mean he's going to come to Manchester United, but if that's what he said. Red Devils 1105 said Semenyo could end up at wing back because personally I don't think he's as good as Cunha and Bumo, and midfielder has to be a priority. Even fans of other teams can see we need a midfielder. I think everyone can see Manchester United midfielder, and I don't think need a midfielder. I don't think Ruben Amorim can't see it. Whether you love Ruben Amorim or you don't like him or you don't think he's good enough, he can obviously see the issues we've got in midfield. He obviously knows that. You can obviously see that. I don't want to turn this into an excuse to have a go at Manuel Ugarte because I feel like you're just kicking a puppy at this point. You can obviously see that Manuel Ugarte isn't up to it. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with him sort of short term, but long term, I don't think he's got much of a future in Manchester United. So you need to bring in someone else. And I think that someone like, well, you know who we've been linked with. We've been linked with Adam Wharton. We've been linked with Elliot Anderson. And we've been linked with Carlos Baleba as well. So any of those players you can expect could do a job for Manchester United. The thing with Carlos Baleba, he's not having a great season, is he? Now, is this just because his head's been turned? Is it a case of, someone made a good point the other day, I can't remember who it was on one of the podcasts. If you look at Youri Tielemans, the last season I think he had at Leicester, I remember we were linked with him, and I'd watched him a couple of times and I thought he just looks like he's fell off a cliff. He's just lost his mojo. He just doesn't look good enough at all for Manchester United. Now, he went to Villa and I think he smashed it. I think he's a really good player, Youri Tielemans. So there's an argument that sometimes players, their heads get turned or whatever, and they're still quality players, they're just not performing at levels they can do. That is some of the arguments being made towards Carlos Baleba. I do worry though. I do worry when I see a player not performing consistently for his club and United are linked with him, especially when we're linked with him for what, 100 million quid. Now let's say it's not 100 million, let's say it's 80. It's still a lot of money to pay for a player, who's not having a great season. So it's a concern. In terms of this season, who's playing the best out of the ones we've been linked with? I think it's Elliot Anderson. I think Elliot Anderson's done very well. I've watched him a few times. He always seems to turn up. He turned up against us. I know it's not the be all and end all, but he did have a very good game against Manchester United. Adam Wharton, I've seen him a few times. I think he's done all right when I've watched him. He's a very good player. He could fit into this system, I think, pretty usefully. Are United going to get him? I think of the three we've been linked with, he's probably the cheapest. He still could cost around 70 million quid, but I think Anderson's been sort of touted as 90 million. Baleba 100 million, I don't think that's going to happen, probably a little bit less, but I think Wharton's probably the cheapest. Let me know what you think about these links. Do you want any of them? Do you think they're going to happen? I don't think any of those links I mentioned about the likes of Wharton, Baleba and Anderson are going to happen anytime soon, but in the summer, would you go for one of them? Would you go for two of them? Would you go for any of them? And if not, who would you go for? Let me know what you think. Get involved in the summer. Sandanot says, it's already suggested he wanted a midfielder last summer and it didn't happen. There's just a few things suggested that Ruben Amorim wanted that didn't happen. That he wanted a midfielder. That he wanted, a lot of rumours that he wanted Emi Martinez over Senna Lomans. Again, I don't know how true some of these are, but you can let me know. Steve M says, the one I'd like is Anderson. Out of those choices, I'd go for Anderson myself. It's weird because it can change, kind of. I don't watch these players week in, week out. I don't watch Nottingham Forest every week. I don't watch Crystal Palace every week. But when I've watched these players this season, it's Anderson's the one that's impressed me the most out of the three that we've been linked with. So, you know, if you gave me a choice of one of them, I'd probably go with Elliot Anderson. Let's talk about Joshua Zirkzee. I think there's a story about his fee has been revealed. He's been linked with a move to Roma this window, and I think if we can scroll down there, so there is what's this here? It is understood their offer is for a loan option to buy with a loan fee of 4.4 million and an option to buy at the end of the season of 26.3 million. Those numbers, to me, I don't know how accurate they are, but they feel right. It seems right, doesn't it? Because I think we paid about 40 odd million for him, didn't we? And let's be frank, he hasn't set the world alight at Manchester United. He's a good player to watch. When he's on the ball, I like watching Joshua Zirkzee. I think he's got some really good talents about him, and I like the way he controls the ball, and I like the way he moves with it. But I think he's got one goal in his last 27 games. Now, he hasn't started a lot of those games, so let's not be too harsh on the lad. But you're not going to get a profit on him, and I doubt you're going to get your money back on him. So, is 26 million about right after a loan fee, of course? Probably. The one thing I will say about this, though, whether you rate Joshua Zirkzee or not, he plays for Manchester United. He gets minutes. He's had starts for Manchester United. So is the manager going to let him go without replacing him and then have one fewer attacker or one striker fewer? I know you could argue he's not a striker, he's a 9.5, but he's played up front for Manchester United. Are you going to do that? So then you're only going to have Cunha can play up front. Sesko can play up front. Obviously, Sesko's a striker. Maybe Mbumo as well. Those are your options. I don't know. I think it's doubtful for me. Because what benefit is that to Ruben Amorim to let a player go that he's using? Unless he's replacing him. It doesn't make much sense to me, to be honest with you. And I like Joshua Zirkzee, and I don't think he's quite good enough for Manchester United. But if you are going to let him go now, then you need to replace him, because otherwise you're just giving yourself one less option. And I don't know if that makes any sense. Let me know what you think. Santa Not says, I don't want Zirkzee to go until the summer. How thin do people want this season squad to go? And that's a good point. I just think it'd be a bit of a weird move. Steve says, only if we get Semenyo. Zirkzee out, Semenyo in, says someone else with a name I can't read. Well, I can read it, but it'd take me half an hour or two. Yeah, that's the only way I can see that happening, is if we bring in a player in January. So we'll have to wait and see. It's one to keep an eye on. I don't think Joshua Zirkzee is going to go out unless we do bring someone in, because I don't think that makes any sense to me, to have one less option or one fewer option. You're just making life harder for yourself, aren't you? Way of Weird. Oh, sorry. I think that's replying to someone else. David Holt says, think we missed a trick with Calvert-Lewin on a free transfer in the summer. Are we Stephen Howson in the skies, right? Howson said we should have got Calvert-Lewin right. And every time Calvert-Lewin scores, I see Steve bragging about that clip where he said we should have got Calvert-Lewin in the summer on a free. Yes, we probably should have done as a backup, but we didn't, and now plays for Leeds. So every time he scores, I'm sick of getting reminded of it, because that means Leeds have got to go. Sejo, or is it Slejo? I should know this by now. He's been commenting for ages. He's a big supporter of the channel. Slejo James John says, get Danny Welbeck. Would love Danny Welbeck to return to Old Trafford. I've kind of given up on it, though. It ain't going to happen. It's a shame, because the return of Danny Welbeck would be the greatest moment in my Manchester United fandom. Let's talk about Rasmus Højlund, talking of Manchester United attackers. He's still technically a Manchester United attacker, isn't he? He did a post on Instagram saying what a great decision looks like. I think they won, is it the Italian Super Cup, is it? Napoli last night. So yeah, he's saying what a great decision looks like. A lot of people got a bit annoyed with this. Saying, oh, you got a great decision. It was United's decision, not yours. Look, Rasmus Højlund had a bit of an up and down time at Manchester United, didn't he? He's gone out on loan. I hope he has success there. I hope he gets a permanent move. I don't think he's going to come back to Manchester United. So I think, yeah, I kind of hope it works out for Rasmus Højlund. I'm not bothered about that post, to be honest with you. I don't know why everyone's getting a little bit annoyed. It's not that deep, and hopefully, you know, he can continue to do well at Napoli, get a permanent move, we get some money in, and we can reinvest that money elsewhere in the team. I mean, that would be the sort of the plan. In terms of the Bruno injury, I think we've got a bit of an update here. Is it from someone on social media? So just bear with me, sorry. Sorry? Get rid of that immediately. We've spoken about this, and as usual, my comments and my instructions, not even comments, my orders, yeah, are ignored. It's a good job it's Christmas. Otherwise, you'd all be sacked. Bruno's injured, and we don't know how long he's going to be out for. We'll find out when the manager tells us, yeah? Anyone else is just guessing. That's what I'm going to say about the Bruno Fernandes injury. Dare I click on the next one? Is it? I can't. Is it? I can't. All right. Do you know what? I'm gonna give producer Harry a bit of a pass. He's got a lot of work to do today, the lad. There's a lot of videos to film and edit, so he's doing a good job. But he's sailing close to the wind with some of the journalists he's covering. Red Baron 2455 says producers should form a union. There'll be no unionising at Stretford Paddock. I don't care how left wing I might be. I don't practice what I preach. There'll be no unions in here. Mick Collins says Ethan come back. No, we're not having any of that. Harry's doing a fantastic job. Steve M says Jay's a union buster. There you go. That's another nickname to add to my list of many. I'm going to wrap it up there, to be honest with you, before Harry does form a union and, you know, goes on strike and then the channel's goosed. We're going to be back later on today We've got loads of videos. We've filmed some videos. We've got some videos coming out. If you've not done so already, go and check out the Paddock podcast from yesterday. It was me, it was Ronaldo, it was Adam McCullough, and of course Joe Smith was on it. We've also got Off the Bar coming up. We've got an Uncensored coming up. We're going to preview the Newcastle game. I'm going to lay my cards on the table for the Newcastle game, right? There's been a lot of doom and gloom lately. There's been a lot of doom and gloom on Paddock because a lot of the presenters and contributors are suffering a little bit because the results haven't been great. I think we'll beat Newcastle. I think Newcastle is going to be a win for Manchester United. I know we've got a load of injuries, but I think we're going to do it. But me and Ronaldo are going to preview that game anyway. So make sure if you're not doing so already, you are hitting like, share and subscribe. Check out the merch as well. Make sure you follow us on all the socials. I've been Jay Motty. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.